let's get the show on the road. We are at the number of episodes that I am years old. Welcome everyone to Cheerful Conversations. This is episode 39 of this amazing show, which has been almost going on for 2 years. I can't believe it. I'm going to go into, should I just renew myself for another season? Yes, I'm going to do it for another year and we'll see how long this keeps on going. But in the meantime, let's celebrate my golden episode in the meantime of Cheerful Conversations with the theme of balancing masculine and feminine energy with my amazing co-host of the day, Natalia Kantor. Natalia, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to have you.
Hello, April. Thank you so much for inviting me. And whoever is out there watching, hello.
Hello. Now, what I want to start with this episode is the fact that, you know, we're talking about masculine and feminine energy, and you have two people who know that extreme spectrum of masculine energy and feeling the burnout and all of these things, and how both of us have been kind of trying to shift ourselves more to the middle ground. And what I loved about Natalia right before we came on, which I usually come in with all this crazy energy, and I still did anyways, but she had us take a step back and breathe, which is not something that I normally even think about doing, but it was super, super helpful. And I've got some essential oils on my hands, so my yoga instructor will be super proud of me because she makes me these oils that to breathe, and it's not normally something that I tend to do, but we're already bringing some of that feminine energy and some of that relaxation into the conversation. So hopefully we will still bring the energy, but we're going to talk about some amazing stuff today. And I'm going to get my notes ready. But Natalia, why don't you tell everybody the awesomeness that you bring to this episode today and just introduce yourself?
Thanks. Thank you. Okay. So I help women especially balance their masculine and their feminine so they avoid burnout, because if they don't, burnout is inevitable, unfortunately. That is what I've realized, and I know we had a tiny little conversation about you realizing the same thing. So it's a big hot topic nowadays, and there is a very good reason behind why that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, obviously the reason why this business is even born is because of my own personal burnout. And while I never want to live that again, I am also grateful for the awareness of what burnout can do to you. And I also know that sometimes people have to be on their own journey and have to experience that feeling of burnout before they really know how to get themselves to center. So I'm not necessarily trying to prevent it, but also just kind of bringing these signs and signals that I was ignoring for so many years into other people's awareness, so that they can maybe hopefully not feel it as strongly as I felt it 5 years ago. But this is a topic that I'm super passionate about. I've been looking for someone to talk masculine and feminine energy with. And so when Natalia started sending out emails, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to this girl. So I'm excited for our conversation today, and want to do a little shout out of how we met. So Jan Keck, who was my episode 12 co-host, you guys were business partners, right?
Yes.
So we actually met a few years ago in a video challenge group that you guys had. What was that? Was that end of 2016 maybe?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Yes, it was.
So long ago. I feel
it's
so crazy. And she reminded me that I had a diaper on my head and it was snowing outside, which it's snowing outside now. So we've officially known each other for 3 years, but we probably haven't talked that much in that 3 years aside from that group. right?
That's right. I just want to clarify. I said that you look really beautiful today, and last time I saw you had a diaper on your head. So I just want to point out the contrast and appreciate it.
And that was me trying to be silly. I should probably try to find a picture and like post that and be like, and but what was really interesting was that it's memorable, right? You guys did some sort of challenge, and had us introduce ourselves on video, and I had just been starting video at that time. So I was still kind of new to how to even have a decent presence in a video. And so I decided to go all out, and I had a diaper sitting on my desk because that's, okay,
That's what happens when you're mom. Yes.
and then I went and I put it on my head. It was clean, people. It was clean. So
And
um
how far you've come along.
how far I've come. Now my hair is
Right? Yeah.
purple and it's super long. This is probably the longest my hair has ever been. Look at that, people. It's boob length. Um, but so it's been 3 years. One of the other questions that I like asking all of my co-hosts is, what is something that you geek out on? And it can't be anything that's work related. So we have to dig a little bit deeper and think of something unique. And so what is something that you geek out on, Natalia?
What do I geek out on? Okay, I really like exploring my inner world.
Mm.
I really do. I like disrupting what I've created in there, going in and cleaning things out. And I really geek out on that. It speaks to me, and I geek out on energy.
Energy.
Just
Yeah.
energy, just understanding energy, because I realize that there's 3 levels to a human being at this point. From my understanding, I might learn more in the future. I will update you, but so far what I realize is that we have our thoughts, we have our feelings, and then underneath all of that is this beautiful energy. And I've been wanting to just figure out how to get to that place most of the time. That's what I geek out on.
I love that. That's awesome. Yes, and I have lots of energy, so I like energy too. Um, all right, so the next thing that I do with all my co-hosts is I ask them a random question, which is in my vulnerability is sexy little game box here, and I'm gonna
Okay.
take all the questions until they're all taken. But we're at this point where we've got 3 different categories. So Natalia, I'm gonna have you pick, and we don't know what the question is until I pull it out. But the 3
Pull it out in
categories.
front of the camera so we can see that you're not cheating.
Yes. So the categories are
Okay.
break the ice. They are get vulnerable, so a little bit deeper, and then laugh a little, so funny haha. So
Mm-hmm.
which category would you like? This is my box. I don't know if you can see it.
Break the ice. I mean, shall we start or yeah? Okay, break the ice.
Break the ice. Okay. So we will do one. Here's
Appropriate for a beginning.
so. Ooh, this is almost okay. I know this is
Share
like
your most memorable.
share your most memorable holiday experience. I don't know why it's not there. It is.
It's I like
And
it.
it's like just right before we started the holidays. So
That's
this is
right.
good timing. I feel like all these questions have always been good timing.
Yeah. Perfect.
First.
That's like the magic of the moment.
Yeah.
Most memorable holiday experience last year in California. We decided we're going to skip Christmas, we're going to skip the presents, and we're just going to travel to Cali, to just outside of San Francisco. And we spend time sitting on this beautiful ridge in the middle of nature, having some champagne and watching the ocean. And it was one of the most relaxing holidays I've had in a long time.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like I have so many that I can't even think of what it would be for me, but I think probably my I'm already like starting to forget all of my childhood ones, which were all super fun. But as an adult, my favorite holiday experience was the first year, which I don't even know what year that was, but probably when my oldest was 5 and my youngest was 3, so it was like 5 years ago. We had the boys. We started a tradition of doing Christmas at our house. We're probably going to break that tradition this year because we're going to start traveling again during the Christmas holidays like we used to before we had kids. But we started this tradition where we make cookies for Santa on Christmas Eve, and then we set them out, and then the boys go to sleep, and then all of a sudden these wonderful gifts from Santa show up under the tree the next
Yeah.
morning, and you can see that he ate those cookies and left so few crumbs. And then getting to open the presents and that. So, unfortunately, my oldest son knows the truth about Santa. So, spoiler alert for any children that are watching this, I hope not. My youngest son doesn't know yet, but we're going to have to be making that transition to having new Christmas traditions. And so, but just being able to have that as a way to connect. And then we have cookies for like a month, which is amazing too, because we make cookies and we leave one or two for Santa.
A month supply of cookies.
We just buy those like little boxes. No, we're not like making cookies from scratch, but it's like a box of chocolate chip cookies and a box of sugar cookies, and then snickerdoodles has become one, or like dark chocolate cookies. So we just make that, and I don't eat that many pastries, so a lot of it is ingested by my family, but we have lots of cookies. Maybe we don't keep it for a month. Maybe it's like a week or two, but it's
Right.
a lot of cookies. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's
so awesome.
really good.
Yeah, so awesome. That was a fun question. And then the next thing that we always do, and before we really dive into our theme of balancing masculine and feminine energy, is cheerful news. This segment was just something that I felt inspired to do to make sure that I'm seeking out positive news, because it's really hard to find positive news sometimes. And I love that over the last couple of years it's been easier and easier to find positive news stories, but it's just a testament to how much the media shares more negative stories, and that there's a need to shift that. So this is our opportunity to seek out the positive and continue to spread it, so that the energy continues to stay to shift more towards the positive as we live this crazy life. So do you want me to go first, or you want to go first?
You can go first, and then I will share. I would like to actually do the share screen.
Share screen.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. So one of the stories that I found, and this is on today.com, there's a man who had autism. He was 27 years old. His name is Jonathan Pinkard. He has autism, and he was in line to get a heart transplant, but was taken off the list because he didn't have a support system for what would happen after the surgery. So they took him off the list, and there was a nurse at an ICU nurse that kind of met Jonathan and decided to adopt him and be his basically legal guardian of sorts, so that she would be the one to take care of him in recovery. And so he was able to get the heart transplant. And so, two complete strangers, they get to, one takes a selfless act to support another. And it's just crazy to me that you would lose the opportunity to get some support for a health issue, or be taken off this list because you don't have the right supports. And so that was something that I never knew about. And so I'm hoping that this inspires other people who feel like they're hopeless and might not be able to have those supports, to really just put themselves out there, because there are wonderful people out there who would be willing to support. So I just thought that that was a really nice.
It was. I saw that. That was a very moving story.
Yeah. So that's my story.
That nurse. See, the feminine.
I know. Ugh.
Feminine. When it nurtures, it really nurtures.
Yes. So we can always use more feminine energy, even if you're a guy, even though the two of us are.
That's right. Even if you're a man.
Yes. Yeah. All right. What's your story?
Can I screen share?
Yeah.
Can I play just a little tiny segment?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. Share screen. Do you see this?
Yes.
Do you see? Okay. this is New Zealand's Prime Minister.
Ooh.
She's a woman. I've been following female leaders that are now bringing more of the feminine leadership to these really high positions that usually required hardcore masculine skills to be perceived as powerful and respected. And here she talks about being vulnerable and empathetic as part of the skill set that she needs in order to be an effective leader and carving a new path. So maybe I'll just play a minute.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Courage and strength to be empathetic. And I'm very proudly an empathetic, compassionately driven politician. I've made a very deliberate decision that in the Westminster style of politics that we have in New Zealand, which is very adversarial, that there is a place for us to still push back a little bit on that. I've always said that it takes courage and strength to be empathetic. And I'm very proudly an empathetic, compassionately driven politician. We teach kindness and empathy and compassion to our children, but then we somehow, when it comes to political leadership, want a complete absence of that. So I am trying to chart a different path that will attract critics, but I can only be true to myself in the form of leadership that I believe in.
There
I
you
love
go.
that. Yay!
I love that. I love her. I love her.
I know. I was like, I love the accent too. And it's like, "Steady." I can't even do it. But that's amazing. We need more of that.
Refreshing. It's so refreshing to start hearing these kind of stories and these perspectives.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, you know, throughout the course of our lives, like how much things will shift as a result of both of our work, and hopefully it'll just be a lot more accepting um in the future. So I'm hopeful, but
Yeah.
it's got to start somewhere. So I'm so glad to see that that's coming into play.
It is
Oh,
coming
that's
into
a great
play.
story.
Hmm.
And it's an awesome segue into our topic, so we can dive into all of this amazing stuff that I've just been like dying to talk to you about. So just to preface before we talk and kind of dig into it, um, so masculine and feminine energy has been on top of my mind for a really, really long time. In as I've been realizing that, you know, I associate or identify as somebody who in the past has been a very A-type personality, very much a go-getter. People would describe me as motivated, driven, um, just a go-getter. That's and I kind of bucketed all of that into masculine energy, but didn't realize that until maybe even like a year and a half ago when I started talking about this. And one of the I've never actually gone and really looked up any documentation or any definitions about masculine and feminine energy, but it has become a big conversation topic in a lot of my coaching calls, a lot of just things that conversations that I've had with people. And I never really knew where I sat until I don't remember, maybe it was one of my clients. We were talking about a book that she was reading, and I was like, "Oh, I do have a lot of masculine energy, and I never put the two and two together." And so just before our show, I just decided to Google a little bit just to see what was out there, and there is a article on goop.com that was totally about balancing your feminine and masculine energies. And this article breaks it down into four different types. One is just, you know, very feminine energy, very masculine energy. And then the two in the middle are like maybe leaning more masculine or leaning more feminine, but a little bit of a split. And so I just wanted to, just as a pulse check before we get started and really start talking about this stuff, um, where would you, Natalia, say that you fall on this spectrum of the different four? And I can read some of these out, but if there's no like middle ground, do you think that you lean um more masculine energy or feminine energy at this point in time?
I'll answer this way. Like yourself, I've been very masculine until I realized that that was what I was doing. Because to me, that was just the default setting. And then I had to swing totally to the feminine to understand again what the hell that is. Because I didn't know. This was my operating system right here. So I had to swing the pendulum all the way to the feminine, which required a lot of vulnerability on my end.
Yeah.
And then I would have to say now the pendulum bounced right into the middle, where I know how to access one or the other, and it's not very polarized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that middle spot is definitely where we're all trying to get to, right? Because that's the sweet spot, to have that balance, which is such a big topic that I talk about all the time. I would still say though that I think I never went through that journey of like shifting all the way to the other side. I think I've been like just slowly chipping away and trying to infuse more feminine energy into my world. And so I would maybe still say that I'm more on they call it lesser yang, because if it's the yin and the yang, the yin is the feminine energy and the yang is the masculine energy. I probably still have, maybe I'm like 60 to 70% masculine energy. And I see myself kind of like tripping back into the masculine energy every so often. But being able to, I never used to cry. I never used to, or I looked at crying as a weakness and I tried to shut that part down in me. That's kind of just how I used to be. And it was hard. And then it culminated in the whole burnout scenario, which was crazy. And so I know that you and I haven't really talked about um, our journeys into burning out, and I'm sure that people who've been watching these shows or know about me know that 5 years ago I was kind of struggling with a boss of mine. I was working in higher ed. I couldn't make whatever I was trying to do work for the first time, and it almost felt like I hit a wall in my career. And it took a toll on me. It took a toll on my health. I started losing my hair, which is why having long hair is such a big accomplishment for me, because I was going bald. Like I had patches everywhere from all the stress and all the burnout. And it took 3 years to rebalance. And now I'm at a place where I have 2 years of stability, and it feels so good. But, every once in a while, I get into these spurts, and I'm trying to stabilize as much as possible, but also knowing that sometimes there's ebbs and flows, and sometimes it gets crazy, and sometimes it gets quiet. And so, but what about for you? What was your defining moment that kind of had you look into making that shift?
I completely lost my sex drive.
Oh,
So that was the last pivot point. Until then, I had health issues. I couldn't digest food. I had anxiety off the hook. I was sitting in doctor's office trying to figure out what is wrong, just getting more pills, just moving through it, because until that point, the masculine always thinks, I just need to suck it up and just get it done.
yeah.
So that's how I was operating. Just suck it up and get it done, until I lost my sex drive and became totally numb. Like there was just no life force energy in me, just numbness. Just going through the motions, very mechanical.
Yeah.
And I realized, so my health was falling apart. Now my relationship was breaking down. And then I lost my sex drive and I went, this sucks. It's time to really look at this. What is going on? Where did it go? How do I get it back? Who am I? What's happening to my body?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long ago was that for you?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when we first met, it was happening.
Yeah.
And what I think when we talk about balancing masculine and feminine energy, I think that there is an overarching theme that I think for both of us, we definitely want to talk about on top of all of this, which is trying to um, identify and redefine what success really means. Because I think in the world of masculine energy, my success prior to my current success was, get married, have kids, you know, teach them to be their own successful people and have a nice house and be financially stable and travel a lot and do all those things and make a lot of money,
Mhm.
have a high powered job and be able to do all of that, have a great family, have a great job, have a great everything.
Yeah.
And I got to a point in my life, and I don't know how this was for you, where, I was making, me and my husband were making great money, but then it wasn't enough. And so I kept on pushing and trying to continue to climb the ladder. And I was going through the motions, and I was defining my success by how much money I was making and how good everything else outside of my career was doing. And it all came to a head 5 years ago. And it was that's I've said this multiple times on the show, that sometimes one of the hardest things I had to do is to let go of that success definition and to make that decision to take a leap and not make money for the first time in 13 years. And it was scary. And but as part of this whole journey, I had to really redefine success on terms that made more sense to me. And a lot of it had to deal with not allowing myself to compare myself to everybody else that's putting out all of their success stories. And I think still people look at me and they think I'm successful, but there was, in my heart, it was so, I was just not satisfied with that. And when you're told how to be successful and then you do it and then you still are miserable, like there's something wrong with that. And
Yes, there
so
is.
I
Yep.
think I think that the what success really means, I mean, of course it changes from person to person, right? But I don't know why, or maybe we do. Why is this success definition of like having the nice house and the kids and the family and the high powered job, why is that the definition of success for everybody in regular mainstream culture? I don't, you know.
And what is your definition of success now?
What is my definition of success now? I mean, I think it's it's always changing, but I think that um at the very core, it's, honoring my values, which I have on my arms. um, Fun, accomplishment, connection, authenticity, living by those values and not letting society dictate what success means. And that's hard because they like to define. I mean, I think one of the biggest things, even in the last year, I was auditioning for a game show and I didn't make it because of whatever reasons. But I also think that one of the factors was that I was being my authentic self in how I was answering and how I was, responding to certain things in the personality interview, and it wasn't good enough for TV. And that was heartbreaking, but it's also a reality of how, you know, people want to put you in a bucket. And I've struggled my entire life of not being able to put myself in a bucket and not feeling like I belonged anywhere. And so for something like this to then tell me that, again, like, we can't put you in a bucket, so you don't get to experience this thing, that just made me even more upset. But it's the reality of how our culture is. But how about for you? What does success mean to you now?
I had to reclaim pleasure as the new definition of success for myself. Because, like for yourself, for me, I thought I'll be successful when my business reaches $1 million. Like that was the first threshold that to me meant you did it. Congratulations, well done. And that's when the pushing started. That's when the crazy freaking hustle mode began for me. And the only thing I ended up with is the burnout.
Yeah.
So
Well, did you get there?
And then I've learned the difference between means goals and end goals. But before I explain what that is, I'll tell you, I asked one of the people that I know here, who was the director of the National Geographic back in the day. And I asked him, what is success to you? And he goes, well, just setting a goal and achieving it. And I thought, brilliant, simple, okay. But then there's a difference between means goals and an end goal. Do you know it? Have you heard that?
No.
You have it, okay. So end goal is the actual thing that you're going after. An end goal could be, I just want to sit on the beach. That's an end goal. Mm-hmm. And the ultimate end goal is how what you achieve makes you feel. That is the ultimate end goal. That is what we're all after. Yeah. There's this feeling that we get from getting this thing.
Yeah.
Either security, importance, right? Confidence. And then there's means goals, which are many ways to get to that end goal. So I thought money was the means goal in my life, and it was going to be the vehicle to get me to feeling important and accomplished and confident.
Yeah.
And once I realized the difference, I stopped chasing means goals. I just stopped chasing them. They're not important. I go straight directly to how I want to feel and where is that thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I reclaim pleasure as the new definition of success.
I love that. So what types of things do you do now in terms of bringing more pleasure to your life, right? Because I think people can argue that, working towards a goal that makes you a lot of money or whatever could be pleasurable. Sure. But what types of things do you seek out? And I ask this because I think, pleasure is also something, and having fun is something that I do, but some of the things that I find pleasure in is being really creative. And so doing things like take improv classes and taking ukulele lessons and tapping into that creativity, that is where all of my pleasure resides.
Yes.
And spending time with family and really connecting, it comes back down to the values. But
right.
What do you do?
So before, when I was hustling, when I was in my masculine, it was all about achieving the goal. So once I achieved the goal, then it made me feel a certain way. Okay, only then. So I would chase it as fast as possible so I can get there, so I can feel this good.
Yeah.
Because the chase wasn't great. The chase was like, let's just get there really fast.
Yeah.
Now, how do I do it? It's the journey that is the most important. It's every moment in the journey and feeling good as I'm taking the steps, and then achieving the goal at the end is just the cherry on the top.
Yes.
So I completely flip that. I'm not missing my life trying to chase something just to get somewhere and then going, oh my God, where did that 2 years of my life just go? Because I wasn't present in these moments.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about ukulele and having fun, it's really, to me, that is the definition of sensuality. That is bringing all your senses into every moment.
Yeah.
So, senses of smell, senses of sight, right? Just hearing the things and touch. And when you're really paying attention to all your senses, you become very present to the moment.
Yeah.
So a good coffee, a smell of good coffee, just for that moment, you're like, oh my God, great. Now let's begin this creative endeavor. What do I do? Yeah. The right music, the right incense, or whatever it is. Just creating the right space and ecosystem to be able to take these steps and enjoy them.
Would you say
the scenic route? That's the best way I could describe it.
Yeah. So would you say that, like, if we had to label masculine energy and feminine energy as something different, would you say that it's more of the like doing versus being? I know I talk about that a lot, but
Mm,
I'm one, I think if the feminine energy is more, taking in and experiencing and feeling the feelings versus the masculine energy of like do, accomplish, get done, there's the balance in between where it's like yes, we need to set goals and we need to achieve them. That's we need that masculine energy, but like we almost have to like stop and smell the roses on the way. And I hate it when how our culture talks about like you got to hustle and grind to get your goals accomplished, and
yeah.
it's just not. Though I mean, I think you agree that it's not the way to do it. Yes, you should feel good from working hard, but like you should also have fun. You don't need to lock yourself in a room until the work is done and the goal is accomplished. And
Yeah.
I think that's how I used to operate,
And
unfortunately.
then only pleasure is earned. That's when it's only earned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The,
No, see, I really thought about this, and I broke the masculine and the feminine energy to how we create life. So how, because that's where it comes from. The masculine energy really comes from men and the way they approach creation of life, and the feminine comes from the way women approach creation of life. So men, literally, it just sums it up as the fastest sperm winning. This is how they create life. So for the sperm to impregnate the female egg, it needs a lot of force, like it's gotta go. It needs to be very direct. It doesn't care how it gets there. It just needs to get to the goal no matter what, against all competition and all odds, because life depends on it. And that is why we have this masculine mentality of how the world operates, because it's running on this principle. I got to be the fastest sperm winning against all odds and competition.
just wear a shirt that says that I'm the fastest sperm.
Right? So, and men thrive on this testosterone. They thrive. They love it. It kind of like gives them the oomph. And then we have women coming into the workforce and adopting exactly what men are doing, thinking that that is the way. That is how business is done. This is how we succeed, and this is what we got to do. So we just naturally just get on that same in the same car and drive exactly 200 miles per hour trying to get there.
Yeah.
But that is not how the feminine creates life. And you're a mom, so you know it's a bit different. The way feminine creates, it's like it's almost we receive the seed, right? And then the only job we have is to create the perfect environment for that seed to build. And listen to our intuition in regards to what are the building blocks. Oh my God, I'm really hungry. I need to eat this. Like, this is really good. I'm really craving that. And then the more we listen to that, we naturally know how this all is going to come together. And only at the last moment, there is that launch energy of like that incredible force that is like, okay, now into the world.
Yeah.
But everything else is very soft and very gentle and just like, what do I need right now? How do I feel? How do I self-care? It's in order for this thing to happen, to build. So we see this reflected in the world where, because the feminine principle is missing so much, the care for the environment and the ecosystem and building the right ecosystem is missing, because everything's running on, let's just get to the finish line. As fast as possible. Yeah, so that's how I broke it down. Like it's the simplicity. It's just
no, and it's so simple when you do explain it that way. It's so interesting. That was a good analogy.
There you go. That's how it is.
So when we talk about making this shift, right? So somebody who might be watching this video or taking benefit from this video is on the verge of burnout or has burnt out and knows that whatever they were doing before isn't the way they should continue, because it's impacting their health, it's impacting their relationships, it's impacting their mental state, a whole bunch of different things. Now, as advocates for encouraging this shift from super masculine energy to a little bit more of a balanced energy, what would you say is the biggest benefit of making this shift, and the biggest challenge? And I mean, I'll say that, like, I think that the biggest benefit is, for me, is just being able to really slow down and enjoy the moments of space to do whatever I want to do, because I never had that. And I mean, truth be told, there's times where I'm like, I have to do all of these things, and it is crazy. And that's where the masculine energy is helpful. But being in this place where I don't have guilt around taking a break, listening to
Mhm.
myself, being in that reflective state where before it was a chore. Oh, I have to reflect now. Oh, I have to do this. So I'd say that that's like my biggest benefit, is like I can actually like slow down, and I feel like I'm still moving at a fast pace because I'm fueling myself with energy,
Right.
by taking the rest. I'd still though say that my biggest challenge is I I love letting my emotions out. I love like being emotional, but I hate I hate
Okay.
crying. It hurts my face so bad. And I mean, truth be told, I had to put on makeup, like more makeup than I normally do, because I had these awful, awful bags in my eyes. I was crying all day yesterday, but I
Mm,
needed it. I needed that release.
yeah.
But just the headaches and the like, that sucks. Like, I feel like that's the biggest challenge of like not staying in the masculine energy. And so it's like when I create these spaces of time, I actually have time to think. And when things aren't going well, like I have to release that and I have to cry, and then I feel like crap. So that's
Mm.
mine. What
That's
about you?
lovely. Thank you for sharing that, darling. Thank you. I want to touch base on a few things you said. So I understand what you mean about the guilt when you're feeling guilty when you want to rest.
Yeah.
But that only happens when we're in the hustle mode, when we're in the masculine mode. And the reason that only happens is because in the hustle model of success, if you're not being constantly productive and moving forward, that means you're failing. There is no other option.
Yeah.
So pausing and taking time off feels like failing.
Yeah.
It feels like you're not moving fast enough.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's one thing. The biggest benefit and to of moving from the masculine to the feminine, especially for women, since this is a natural state that if we can tap into, it's super powerful,
Yeah.
is what I call the difference between effortless power and powerless effort. I'll say that again: effortless power and powerless effort. Effortless power is when everything comes together, it's like flow.
Yep.
Right things happen at the right time with the right people, and you go, whoa, look at me, just moving through things.
Yeah.
And then powerless effort is when you feel like you have to push for everything.
Yeah.
You have to force shit to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest difference that I've started to tap into. I stopped forcing and I just went straight to flow.
Yeah. And that's interesting, because I think one of if when I was going through my coach training, one of the big things that like my big overarching goals is like I wanted success to feel effortless. That was what I had written. And
Mm.
it was like I just want to feel like work is not work. Right? Like I'm working hard, but it doesn't feel like it. That was, and then they're like, so you want success to basically feel like it's just happening. And I'm like, yeah, whatever that is. And that's what I've been chasing for all of this. It's like, let's focus on the fun first, and then, this the strategy and all the other stuff will come. And yeah, you might need to have a little bit of strategy, but in terms of really enjoying what's important in that moment, that's good too. So yes, I love that.
Yeah.
That's the biggest benefit. What is
That is
your
a
biggest
huge
challenge?
benefit. That is a huge benefit because I've also looked up. I love words and definition of words. So I looked up hard work. Like, what does that actually mean? Because we seem to love that. It seems
Saying
like
that
a
you're hardworking.
status symbol of some sort that I'm working really hard.
Yeah.
But hard really means forcing. A
Mm.
lot of force. That's what hard is: pushing and forcing. So what's work without that? It's just creating.
Mm.
You're just in creation mode,
Yeah.
just like I said, back in the womb, creation mode. Building blocks, it's just happening.
Yeah.
you're just there picking up intuitively of what is the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing, where do I need to go, where am I being pulled to? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about your biggest challenge making the shift?
The biggest challenge was being vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
That was the
Yeah.
biggest challenge, and yet that was the biggest opener.
Yeah.
I
I think
figure. Yeah. Um, I've I didn't know what shame was until I realized how it was showing up in my life.
mm,
Shame was basically the need to go and hide when things were tough for me, go and literally hide in my room so nobody would see me and
mhm.
go through my, okay, whatever was happening. And then when I felt stronger, I would emerge into the world and go, okay, what's next? But I wouldn't let people see that side. And I didn't realize that was the door of shame that I just kept shutting.
Mm.
So hard crying was really hard for me too. I felt like it was ugly. There's
It ain't pretty. That's for sure.
no, but now it's incredibly enjoyable because I realize that when I'm crying, it's not my mind that's controlling the whole release. It's the body saying, you've accumulated a lot of tension. Time
Yeah.
to release, girl. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I enjoy crying. Like I like having the opportunity to like just have that release. It's just the all the symptoms that come with it. I was like, "Ugh, my head hurts." And then just like I feel like I wiped my eyes so much that it's all just like charred and it's so dry out here. I don't know what's the weather like out by you.
Yeah, it's snowing.
No,
It's
yeah. So I'm like, it's all so dry and I need yeah. But yeah, so vulnerability is sexy. That's
okay.
yeah.
Yes, it is. It is.
It's I think what also allows like when vulnerability comes into the conversation, it just allows so much more connection.
It
And
does.
I don't feel like connection is that strong in masculine energy because it's so focused on like pushing forward.
Yeah.
And so when I look at my goals, it's funny because accomplishment is probably more of a masculine energy word, right? And then I've got connection on the other side and authenticity. So,
Hmm.
but then it's kind of unbalanced because accomplishment is probably the only other one because fun, connection, and authenticity I feel are maybe a little bit more on the feminine side. Maybe
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like 75% feminine energy now.
um,
I was 100% masculine.
right. You know, the one thing I just have to mention, the one thing I've realized being in my masculine is that when we are like that, and men do suffer a lot from this because they have to put on the brave front.
Yeah,
I got this, right? I got this.
yeah.
Doesn't matter what's going on underneath this, but I got this.
Mhm.
And when we're projecting this kind of an image to the outside world, everyone assumes you're okay.
Yeah,
Just everyone like, oh, they're fine. So nobody reaches out, nobody asks if you need help or anything
yeah,
because you got this.
yeah.
So when I started to become vulnerable and just take those masks off, the amount of support that flooded into my life was incredible. And I didn't realize I was keeping myself so away from so much people, so much support, and so much connection coming into my life when I was wearing the I got this mask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Not looking at those things as a sign of weakness, but just a sign of strength, right? I think that's one of the other big shifts is looking at every time I fail, it's like, oh my gosh, failure is good. In a sense where this is allowing me to grow, this is allowing me to challenge myself. If everything was super easy all the time or you just had it, you wouldn't really have any feelings to feel, right? I think even as going through building this business from the ground up, there were those days where I'm like, why am I even doing this? This doesn't make any sense and I'm wasting my time.
Mhm.
But it's that feeling of understanding that it's all part of that journey and feeling like I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now, but feeling just that knowing that that's that's how we move forward.
Yeah,
And
but it's
I would,
okay. That
yeah,
it's okay.
totally
Yeah.
okay. And everybody goes through it.
Yes.
So I feel like if everybody were to just allow themselves to just be a little bit more vulnerable, we would immediately see so much more shifting in from the more masculine energy to the feminine energy. But
Yeah.
we'll continue to work on it. I think we just continue to be role models of that, and hopefully people will then feel empowered to do that as well.
Yes.
So one of the other questions that I wanted to ask or kind of discuss, because if people are sitting in this conversation and saying, okay, so I need to balance my masculine and feminine energy, or I'm seeing myself more masculine or even more feminine, and I want to be in that more balanced state, how would you suggest, as somebody who's doing this very actively with your clients and stuff, how do we, you know, move from somebody who is, I mean, maybe likes to control their results and kind of force certain outcomes, to be more in that flow, because it can't be easy. And I feel like, is there a process that you use to kind of help people kind of go through the motions of making the
Mhm.
shift, or is it completely experimental, or I don't know.
There is a process. I would give, if I was to give it just a tip to try that could be effective immediately.
Yeah.
Let's say you've 7 days in a week, and 7 of those days so far you've been controlling results. You've been planning everything, you know what you're going to do the next day, everything's been organized, everything keeps like moving as clockwork. It's very masculine, it's very structured.
Mhm.
If you want to start testing out and getting back into the feminine a little bit and then playing with the unknown and what could show up, open the weekends up to have no plans and just decide on the day what feels good to do
Mhm.
and start moving in that direction without any concrete plans and see what starts to unfold for you just over the weekends or even just one day testing it out.
Yeah.
I think like that's a very simple
Yeah.
exercise that you can do.
And I think in the masculine energy mind, it's like, okay, so I'm planning to not have a plan. So you have a plan, so it's like you're still kind of controlling it, but you're not. And I think it's a good first step, right?
Yes.
Because I remember I was like, yeah, for people who want to go with the flow, then and you're trying so hard to have like some sort of rigid structure, then just plan to not have a plan, and it'll all be okay.
Which will
um,
bring up a lot of stuff for people that
yeah,
are used to having a plan because the panic is going to set in. But what if nothing happens?
yeah,
What if there's no results? But what if I don't do anything all day? But what if I'm not productive? See, so then it'll start bringing up all the reasons why you're not in the flow in general because your
yeah,
mind is setting you up to just be constantly trying to control everything.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other like quick strategies. I mean, I think even some of these deep conversations, allowing yourself to open up a little bit about struggles you might be having, or just, confiding in somebody, and allowing yourself to get that support. I don't know if that's a little bit harder for people to do, but to even, using a game like this where you have a question and you have to, disclose that information more openly, and it might be scary, but be in a safe space where you can kind of open up. It will put you in that place where you're tapping into a little bit more of that feminine energy by being vulnerable, and by just showing that you're human.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause I think sometimes people ask me, like, how do you get everything done? And I don't remember what I used to say before. But now I'm like, I don't know what you're looking at, but I have my bad days and
Yeah.
days where I just played games on my phone,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was my productive
That's
day.
it.
That was fun for me.
Brings another interesting point to the table that the world has not been designed with women in mind and their cycles, because if it did, it would definitely give us days off when we're menstruating. It would. We're not functional. Let's just call it what it is. No matter how many painkillers we can pop just to get ourselves back to normal, it's not. It's supposed to be a deep time of like recharge and our yin time and relaxation. The corporate world is not designed with women in mind. So, and we do go through, like you're saying, some days, nothing. I've got nothing. There's no energy, and all I just want to do is just sit back and just numb.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And then certain days, the energy's so off the hook that you can get 200 things off the list and you're like, yeah, done. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
So just understanding these ebbs and flows and not feeling like, oh, there's something wrong because I'm having them. They're actually quite normal because everything's cyclical and changes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
love it. And oh my gosh, it's like already 1:56. But I want to kind of close with this idea of, I know that you said that for you, your new definition of success is pleasure, is a more pleasure focused success. And I also, as trying to be as cheerful as possible, or trying to seek out the joy rather than using some sort of monetary number or some sort of status, personal status of how many people or those types of things driving my own success. um I'm assuming the answer to this question is yes, but can pleasure and joy be the real path to success? And and if yes, um what will we how would the world be different?
Great question. And I would say it's a path of success. I've got rid of this to success. There's nowhere to get to.
I love that. No, that's a
I
good
just
way.
really want to point out the difference. It's of success.
Yeah.
And so imagine if everyone just felt good
Yeah.
one moment to the next. What kind of things could we create together?
Yeah.
Because right now, a lot of people don't feel good. A lot of people are anxious, stressed, sick, and we're trying to create together from that place within ourselves.
Hmm.
And I don't know about you, but whenever I was in a bad state, the decisions I was making weren't the greatest.
Yeah.
So that's why, to me, just being in the right state of pleasure, which is feeling good within oneself,
Hmm.
and then making choices, and then making decisions, and then collaborating with people, that's a whole other vibration.
Yeah. Collaborating like this.
Yeah.
It's with pleasure. And there was one other question that I wanted to ask, but then it might have taken us way over.
Happiness. What's happiness? Remember?
Yeah, no, there was another one, but
Oh, there was another one. Okay.
yeah. But I want to close on the final thing, and maybe this is the same as definition of success. But somebody from my audience asked, "What is happiness for you?" And I Yeah, why don't you answer that question, and we'll close on that, and I'll explain what mine is as well.
Yeah, well, that's a deep question. And the reason that's a deep question, because for the longest time, happiness has been defined by what we have and what's outside of us.
Mhm.
When I said at the beginning that I'm really curious and I geek out on exploring my inner world, the
Yeah.
more I do so, the more I realize that there is a place that is so at the core grounded that feels so good to me whenever I just come from that place. And that place is, forget about what my mind is saying, forget about what my feelings are saying. There is another layer of just energy that is just always flowing, so beautiful, so peaceful, so relaxing, that if I just get to that place, I'm good. And that's what happiness is. It's like it's a place within us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think,
It's 2 o'clock.
what's happiness for me? I feel like there's so much, but I think at the very core of everything, if I had to look at happiness, and to leave this world eventually, because we
Mhm.
all will, but to think about my crowning accomplishment, or my most valued accomplishment. And maybe that's a masculine energy type of response, but I think I think that at the very core of everything, and it's my number one priority, is raising my own children to be empathetic, successful in their own right, um, and just happy people who are pushing more cheerfulness into the world. Like that would be my happiness. And so
Mm.
as much as I want to change the world and I want to do all these awesome things and help shift culture, I that is my happiness, but I think that I want to continue sharing that with others so that they don't feel that that they could potentially rewrite their own success definition, and that's why I try to do it. And so it's really letting the people who I care about, or who can tolerate me and who want to listen to me, really know that they are loved and that they matter. And um but most importantly, my kids, I think that that's like my true happiness. So
Mhm. Aw.
feminine energy. Oh my gosh. Well, this was an amazing conversation. I have like so much more to think about, and there's so many other things that we could have probably talked about. We might have to just have more conversations about that
That sounds
offline.
good, darling.
But
That sounds really good.
I appreciate you so much for being on the show for episode 39. And for those of you watching either live or on the replay, thank you so much for listening to our amazing conversation. And we'll see you in another few weeks for the next episode. So
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
mwah. All right. Bye, guys.